Welcome back to the Bold Life Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Rich, and this is episode 41. Today we have the creator of the ultra hilarious YouTube channel, Awaken with JP, the one and only JP Sears. And today's episode is super special, not just because we have the ultra spiritual JP Sears joining us, but because this is the first ever video recorded episode of the show. So if you want to head over to theboldlifemovement.com/YouTube and subscribe there so you don't miss any future episodes, go ahead and do that now. You'll also be able to find today's video recording in the show notes at theboldlifemovement.com/041. Since JP and I cover so much ground today, I won't waste too much more of your time. We talk about everything from his emotional healing coaching practice to his ultra spiritual diet to becoming an author and getting his own TV show. I had so much fun getting to know JP better, and I have no doubt that you will too. So without further ado, please welcome the one and only JP Sears. All right, JP, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm super excited to have you, and I'm looking forward to just getting to know you a little bit better.
Well, thank you for having me on, Kimberly. I'm very excited that you're excited and very excited that you would invite me on.
Awesome. So one of the things that I wanted to kick us off with, a lot of people are familiar with your YouTube channel, Awaken with JP, and they see your videos going viral all over the internet. But what were you doing before this? Did you ever have a traditional job?
The traditional job, kind of, sort of, like when I was 18 and 19, I worked the front desk at the local gym.
Okay.
So that was my run at traditional jobs. And I think luckily enough for me, I'm either functional enough or dysfunctional enough that I'm not employable. So I don't know, the wild animal inside of me just doesn't work very well with traditional jobs.
Have you been fired?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I've just never been hired aside from the gym. So what I was doing before, and as part of what I still do, is for the past 15 or so years, I've had an emotional healing client coaching practice where I get to work with people all over the world via, my practice is largely on Skype. So that's what I was doing, and I've also done a lot of leading retreats, teaching workshops, classes on emotional healing, self-growth, and, a little further back in the day on nutrition as well. So that's definitely part of what I still do, and that, how much landscape that takes up in my life today is just smaller than what it used to be because there's other projects and meaningful endeavors that the garden of my life has been growing that feel very purposeful to tend to as well, in addition to the client practice.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about what people can expect with the one-on-one coaching or the retreats? I've definitely been interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Tell
the
me
retreat.
If you can.
Yeah. The retreats, I've put running my own retreats on hold just because I've got to devote that time to other endeavors. But with that said, the one-on-one practice for me, as I burp and about throw up in my mouth, try to play that off.
Is it because I said sell me?
Yeah.
Your spiritual side is like, nah, I don't play like that.
I would think about what it would cost you, Kimberly, if you didn't do coaching with me.
The scripts.
Are you sold yet? No, so the coaching I work with, or the way I coach, it's really all about vulnerability. It's helping people help themselves connect to emotions, feelings, as well as memories and experiences that are essentially stuck in their emotional digestive system. So, long story short, creating an environment where people connect to feelings that need to be felt. And it's just like if someone was very constipated in their digestive system, we know that getting things moving is the healthiest thing they can do. So that's what I do with emotional coaching. And a lot of that is I work with people, oftentimes using like an inner child model.
Okay.
I find that metaphor just helps really create a way to connect to the intangibility of the human psyche and heart.
Sweet. So for anyone watching or listening who thought you just made money from yoga sponsorships and YouTube videos, there is, more depth to the business. And I love hearing it straight from you, because I've obviously looked at your site and I'm familiar with that type of work, being a coach as well. But it's cool to hear someone, straight from your mouth, what it is that you do and why you like doing it. So thank you.
Yeah, I love doing it. It feeds my heart, feeds my soul, and not just codependently, because I get to have the illusion of helping people,
Totally.
which is really helping themselves. But I get to learn a heck of a lot about myself through working in the intimate realms of the human mind and heart with people. So, yeah, it's like, clients are my clients, but in reality, they're also my teachers as well. And I know that's a little bit cliche to say. All coaches and people say, yeah, people are my teachers. And it's cliche because it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Just as like in a relationship, someone is your mirror. The same goes for your clients. Like I'm often helping my clients with the exact same thing that I need to be hearing that day. So I'm right there with you. Transitioning just a little bit to the videos, I wanted to ask which one was your favorite to film, or like what was the most fun video that you filmed?
Yeah, it's a great question, and there's definitely fun with all of them. So it's a hard question to answer.
Pick your favorite baby, JP.
My answer, I think the taking yoga photos or how to take yoga photos for Instagram, that was a lot of fun. That video was relatively impromptu. I was in Byron Bay, Australia, and a friend of mine who's a yoga photographer just happened to be passing through Byron Bay for a few days while I was going to be there, and we were eating dinner one night, and he said, would you want to collaborate on a video? I'm like, yeah, I like that. So we came up with some ideas. In getting the B-roll footage for that video, when I'm doing poses by the ocean or on a cliff or wherever it is, that was a lot of fun. And, during that B-roll footage, he's also taking legitimate, beautiful photos.
Yeah.
And
your social media has never looked better.
Well, thank you for noticing. That was a great observation of you, Kimberly. So that was exciting, and it was also scary because it's actually hard to tell by some of the photos and footage, but we were in legitimately dangerous locations. Like I was on the side of a cliff, and it's kind of like if I just fell backwards, like I would have died. There wasn't too much room for error, and I'm not a big fan of heights. And Brian Crawford, the yoga photographer, he's just saying like, okay, JP, stand over there. I'm like, Jesus, really? Okay. And there was a couple situations where I said, I'm not comfortable with that.
The life of a model, man. That's how it goes.
Yeah, man, I don't know. And then one part of that I also want to share, he and I were driving along the road, and it was like sunset setting over a mountain, beautiful, and there's this rolling pasture with a bunch of cows inside. And he'd say, oh, JP, would you be willing for us to do a few photos and shoot by the cows? I'm like, yeah. So we get out of his van, and we're about to hop the fence, and then there was like a neighbor outside by a house. He said, well, let me ask them if we can go inside it in case those are, it's his property.
Yeah.
So Brian went up and said, are these your cows? And the guy said, no. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, we were just wanting to go in and get some pictures. And he said, well, you can do that, but there's a bull in there that will kill you. And it was just the most Australian thing I've ever heard. Like this guy, just matter of fact, like, yeah, welcome to, but the bull will kill you. So that was a very fun video to shoot.
Next time you tell that story, will you throw in an Australian accent just for my benefit?
I will work on that. I throw in a terrible Australian accent now, but let me work on that, and we'll
round two.
We'll do a round two.
Round two. Along the vein of vulnerability, was there ever any video that you put up that you were a little bit nervous to publish? You were like, this might grind people like a little bit more than I usually do.
Yeah, a couple things come to my mind. The first one was the first How to Be Ultra Spiritual video, because that was kind of like the second video I did that was of a comedy face, and definitely it was the most satirical up to that point, and I think satire has an edge. So it's like, I was a little nervous to put that out. And then the I think it was maybe the fifth one I did was called Using Ayahuasca. And one of the reasons why I wanted to put that out is because I think there is a there's a huge concern of mine about how people use such a powerful substance in such a cavalier way of partying and having a good time. And I think using something sacred in a very unsacred way is not only maybe disrespectful to the sacredness of the plant. I think all plants are sacred, but I think it's very dangerous to oneself. And it's so trendy that people just treat it like I'm going out to have a few beers. It's like you are going on a powerful mind-altering substance that has a complete influence on your biochemistry. So because
this is a thing, people use it recreationally like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
But while they use it recreationally, most of the time they'll have a lot of spiritual rationalizations to disguise the fact that their behavior is of a recreational deflect from self use. And because I had been seeing this happen for years, but nobody's talking about it, I'm kind of like, this is a secret within the New Age community that needs to be talked about. So I was just really called to break the spell of the secret, voice what was not being voiced, shine the light on a shadow that a lot of people can see, but nobody's talking about.
Yeah.
And I definitely
have you done Aya?
I haven't done ayahuasca. About 10 years ago, I experimented with some other psychedelics, but not ayahuasca. I'm curious about it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't choose to use something like that just because I'm curious about it. I think it takes a very deep inner calling before it's like a respectful respective self-use of a plant. So yeah, from that video I definitely got backlash, yet I was very willing to take it because it was a message that I think the world needed to pay attention to.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised to hear that. I have a lot of friends, you and I probably run in overlapping circles, and I have a lot of friends who have done it for the spiritual journey side, and have done it in a very respectful way. So that's been that's been my exposure to it, and that's what has given me like the curiosity about it as well. Whereas like I've never experimented with psychedelics before. I have a little bit of anxiety when it comes to that kind of experience, I guess. So yeah, that's interesting to hear that people are using it recreationally. A little scary, to be honest.
Yeah, it's incredibly scary. And not to beat this dead horse to death, yet there's also some people who are very genuine in their desire to use it, yet find a guide who is not genuine.
Yeah.
I had a lady write to me, it was just like 2 weeks ago. Her son died in Brazil using ayahuasca with a pseudo shaman. And I have a friend who's suffered brain damage from using ayahuasca along with a number of other psychedelics all within the same weekend under the guidance of someone who is very happy to call himself a shaman.
Yeah.
Yet in my opinion, he is a pretty predatorial person. So yeah, anyway, I definitely have concerns about why people use what they use.
Yeah. Well, just to kind of take a step back from that a little bit, I think that this example, the ayahuasca video, is like a perfect example for my listeners who have a vision that they're a little bit nervous to put out there because they're afraid what people will think. And you have to understand that no matter what content you put out there, you're always going to have haters. You're always going to have people that get pissed off by it. But if it's something that you believe in strongly enough, like you do with this ayahuasca topic, then it's worth it. And that's kind of something to just keep in mind.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with your reflection. I think our heart and soul, and I think our creativity, which is really an expression of our heart and soul, our inspiration, what we're inspired to voice or express through our art, if it makes everybody happy, then we're probably not being true to our art. I think art, in whatever form the art is, whether it's music, a video, a painting, poetry, writing, true art is a clear mirror of self-reflection. And if people who look at our art only, feel pleasure, then that probably means, one, not many people are going to look at it, and two, it's not providing much of a deep reflection. I'm not saying that art can't give us pleasure, but I am saying that if our art is orchestrated out of a people-pleasing mentality, we filter out a lot that wants to express itself through us.
Yeah.
So I think, true art gives people what they need, not necessarily what they want. And I think what we need is deeper connection with ourself, not just the parts of us that we like, but the parts of us that we're disconnected from. So a lot of that means I think good art helps us get in touch with our shadow. And I will say, just for the sake of the viewers, this is kombucha I'm drinking, not just beer. Here's JP talking about like using substances like in a dangerous way, and he's drinking beer. We're recording this noon on Friday, noon Eastern time.
No judgment. This is the Bold Life Movement. We don't judge. So along the creativity vein, I wanted to ask what process you use to come up with the ideas for your videos.
Yeah, it's been a process of finding my process, to be honest with you. Probably about the first year or so I was doing the comedy videos, it was like I didn't have a process. It wasn't very structured because it was new for me.
Yeah. It was just like you'd get in flow and write down ideas and be like, I'm going to film this.
Well, kind of. You make it sound so graceful, but it was sloppier than that. It wasn't very efficient. It wasn't very structured. Not that it needs to be structured, but it was hard on me because I was like creating the process of bringing my creativity in the world. So now, I'm 2 years into doing the comedy videos. There's definitely a process that helps it be more streamlined, and it's easier for me to get essentially the paint to land on the canvas. So the ideas typically come to me, like they'll just flash into my mind and I'll write them down like, okay, doing a video on this topic. And I've got a list of videos that is long. So there's a lot of ideas that come to me. And then as far as which idea I pick to do a video on now, it's really just kind of like what inspires me in the moment. And then typically I like to work on like the comedy videos I script, and I'll write them. And that's a process where I typically do like a first draft, and I like to take my time on that. So if I can give myself a week or so to work on that a little bit each day, it works very well for me. So then I write this script and then I review it and then I film it.
And you got to straighten your hair, right?
I straighten my hair to get the ultra spiritual look.
It shows. It's effective. I want to know more about, give us like a behind the scenes look at and I'm going to butcher this, okay? The Guru JP Paji photo. Do you know what I'm talking about? I
think I do. I think
I butchered that.
JP Paji
is
maybe, a good friend of mine, Paul Samuel Dolman. He's an author and he's got a podcast. He's had me on a bunch of times. So he took that photo and he's the one that created the name. And
keep it together.
It's a funny name, JP Paji, I think it is.
But your hair, it's so good. It's so good.
That was interesting. So for the viewers, it's kind of like a big fro of long red hair. It just defies the laws of physics. But that was a picture that from one of the photo shoots I did for my upcoming book. It'll be released March 7th.
Oh, sweet.
Called How to Be Ultra Spiritual.
We'll have whatever link we can in the show notes.
Right on. Well, I appreciate that. We'll be doing the pre-order campaign here before too long. I'm really excited about the book, but nonetheless, that photo was from one of the photo shoots I did for the book. And that photo was meant to represent the lineage, one of the gurus in the lineage of gurus I come from. And the photo in the book, there's that JP Paji photo, and then another guru photo I'm in, and then another guru photo, and then the character of me praying over all three of those photos, because that's my lineage of gurus.
It's so good. When I saw that picture, I was just like, how did this idea come about? Did he wake up with insane bedhead one morning and he was just like, there's something here? Like, this could be good.
That'd be interesting. I would have to sleep very aggressively to have that. That's
lots severe of mid-sleep teasing going on.
Absolutely.
So my next question, I hope doesn't embarrass you.
Mm. I'm
So
I'm
let's see.
embarrassed that you would think it might embarrass me, Kimberly.
Ooh, touche. So when we met, you were front row at Tony Robbins, which is not an easy seat to come by. Like something has to happen to get that seat in the house. And so I want to know what are some other awesome opportunities or sort of like surreal moments that have happened over the past couple years simply because you started like expressing your creative side publicly?
Yeah, yeah, surreal for sure. Yeah, and that was a great honor to be invited and get probably the best seat in the house.
I could like feel his sweat in that seat.
Absolutely, and probably got spat on more times than I can count. It's awesome. It's splash zone. Um, it's wonderful and surreal to have people just wherever I am, oftentimes just come up to me and say hey, and that they watch my videos. That's really cool. And the being approached by book publishers to write a book, being approached by TV production companies. And it's a little bit surreal because now it's sort of like business as usual. Like
Yeah.
those are the worlds I'm dealing with, and it's kind of surreal when I like acknowledge how surreal it doesn't seem. It's like I've acclimated to it here over the past little while, so it's almost surreal how it doesn't seem surreal at times. Um, but that is, yeah, those kind of opportunities, they really, doing a reality check, they really are surreal. I think there's a lot of grace involved that allows me, for whatever reason, to be in a position where I get to dance with some, very wonderful blessings.
Yeah. Yeah. I love those moments. I had a few of them when I was living overseas after quitting my 9 to 5 job where you're just like, what is my life? Like whether you're sitting front row at Tony Robbins or on a beach at 10 a.m. on a weekday or work day, and you're just like, how did I get here? I don't hate it, but how did I get here? Yeah, it's good. It's good to like sit back and reflect a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, with all the different people coming up to you and all the followers that you've amassed over the past 2 years, how do you remain ultra spiritual with people coming up to you on the street and, wanting to get selfies and things like that?
Yeah, well, remain ultra spiritual is a good question. But to me, it's important to stay grounded, and I think a big part of that is uh, continuous reminders to bask in the light of gratitude. When someone comes up to me and lets me know they love my videos, they watch my videos, that is, I really am so grateful for that. I'm grateful that they watch my videos. I'm grateful that they get some kind of levity from them and meaning. And I'm grateful that they came up to introduce themselves to me. So I think sometimes and luckily it hasn't happened yet. I'll probably become a jerk next month, according to my schedule. But sometimes depending on where I'm at, it can be like swimming through syrup to get where I'm going, with a lot of people coming up. And still at that,
Yeah.
I am grateful that I remain in a state of gratitude. And I don't mean to sound ultra spiritual, like I'm in a perpetual state of gratitude, but people coming up to me, it's almost like that is a reminder, JP, there is so much to be grateful for right now.
Yeah.
There really is.
It's like
So
a gratitude totem. I have a bracelet that someone gave me at a conference I went to recently. Vanessa Van Edwards. I don't know if you're familiar with her work, but she gave everyone in the audience these gratitude totems. So when you see it, it's just like a reminder that
mm,
my life is pretty good and you have a lot
yeah.
to be grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it taking a little longer to walk where you're going because
Yeah.
people want to share their love and appreciation with you. Like that's a great first world problem to have.
Yeah.
And if someone thinks that's actually a problem, then they have a problem
Yeah. Yeah.
thinking that it's a problem.
Yeah. So in my mind, ultra spiritual people don't watch TV. Like whenever I tell people that I don't own a TV, my hope is that they're like, whoa, she's really evolved. So do you spend time on things like TV or, perusing social media? And if so, are you willing to admit any shows that you watch?
It's a great question. I don't own a TV.
Virtual high five.
Absolutely. I was thinking too. Like minds think alike, or what? Great minds think alike.
Also like minds.
Yes, like minds think alike.
I'll put that as the quote at the top of the show notes.
It's very deep. Like minds think alike. But yeah, it's been probably 12 years, maybe 13 years since I've owned a TV, and I think it's the best mental cleanse ever that I've experienced. And I think especially for me, because I think by nature I have an addictive personality. So if there's a TV around, I'm probably going to watch it.
Yeah,
and
binge.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I realize that's kind of hypocritical because, here I am, I'm in the process of developing a TV show. Yeah, like I don't own a TV.
Yeah. It's like being an alcoholic who doesn't drink, but is the owner of a winery.
That's a perfect analogy. Let me have some more beer.
It's kombucha.
And by the way, I'm by no means as pure and holy as that sounds, because absolutely, I have a thing called a computer that's hooked the hell up to Netflix. So, yes, I do watch stuff. Not very often, but, I've definitely binge watched Breaking Bad, House of Cards, great shows. And I love the fact that we can watch those without commercials. I think TV commercials are just like, something to stay away from. And perusing social media, I would say a little bit. I tend to be pretty selfish with social media, where typically when I get on, it's like me posting or engaging. Absolutely. Not so much on the quote unquote consuming side. Yeah. And I'm very okay with that. Because there is obviously a bottomless pit of what you can consume on social media. So I'm grateful that I don't submerge too deep into that rabbit hole.
It's not just you, though. You also feature Zephyr on your social media a lot. Well played, by the way. People love dogs.
A cute, lovable dog. That's key to social media success.
Yeah. So how can listeners help their pets to be more spiritual? Do you have a video about that?
No, that video, though, has been suggested often. It's specifically the video of do a video on pet owners who treat their pet like a kid, which I absolutely do.
Yeah.
I think I would, could be a good video. But yeah, how can pet owners help their pets become more ultra spiritual? Yeah. It's a good question. I think doing yoga with a pet is important. Anytime I do yoga, roll out my yoga mat, my dog just lays on it. And then
down dog.
Yeah, so he lays down dog. And so he gets the yoga mat and I have to do yoga beside the yoga mat. So I think that form of pet yoga is very important for pets to become more spiritual.
I like it. So I actually have some listener questions, which I want to read out. This is the first episode I've gotten to do this, so I'm pretty excited.
I would love to listen to the listener questions. It sounds like the listeners aren't just listeners, they're voicers.
Yeah. Well, now they are.
But it'd be fun to engage.
Andy wants to know, and hopefully he's gotten a good feel of this throughout the interview, what are you like when you're not in character?
Great question. I'm like different things. One of the things I'm like when I'm not in character is I'm like my character. Mm-hmm. Because that character, it's not some figment of my imagination. It's a part of me. It really is. And, when I'm in character on stage or on a video, it's kind of like I'm just giving expression to that part of me to the exclusion of other parts of me.
You're amplifying that part.
Yeah, absolutely. Magnifying glass over it. And then when I'm not in character, other dimensions of myself that may be on the scene, I have a very sincere side where, especially if I'm working with clients, it's, I'm not there to make anybody laugh. I'm there to have a heart-to-heart connection. And Yeah, and then another part of me, I can be just serious. I'm in work mode, and I got to do this, 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 and this, and it kind of makes me want to throw up thinking about it. But yeah, I get overly serious. Um, Oh, and then, certainly a playful dimension where I've got a friend of mine staying with me right now, a good friend named Jator, and like he and I will make noises at each other. I'll walk across the kitchen and I'll make like a gagging sound at him. And that's like normal for he and I, where when I'm around him, oftentimes we'll just become like 5-year-old little boys playing in a sandbox. And it's beautiful to give that part of me expression that, doesn't really have, a playground to play on in many other places.
I have, excuse me, I have a good friend, Abby, who visited me a few months ago, and I hadn't seen her in a couple years, and it's the same thing. You just kind of revert, but in a really awesome way, and we're just on, and the banter is at like this whole new level, and it just feels good to have that part of you pulled out and given some attention. So I totally get it.
It's fun, and it's nice to go into that and then go out. I think it would be a severe disorder to go into that part and get stuck in it.
Just making gagging noises all day. It doesn't sound very productive.
Yeah, and going out in public, I can see how it could.
Yeah. I don't know how to put that in quote marks for the show notes, so we'll save it. The next question is from Jan. He is asking, what would you like to hear read in your eulogy?
That's a great question. It'd be interesting for me to hear someone reading my eulogy. It would make me question, am I really dead? So I was like, fundamentally, let's think about that. But it would be an honor for me to hear people mention that I was very caring, very heartfelt. It would also be wonderful to hear people acknowledge the perspective and creativity and good that I brought to the world. And I would definitely love to have my playful side acknowledged as well.
Awesome. I love that. Courtney wants to know, what is the most spiritual way to keep your favorite yoga classes boyfriend free?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. My experience is the more guys in a yoga class, the less spiritual they are.
That sounds about right.
I like to take the yoga classes with no other men in them. That's the only motive. So the best way to keep yoga class boyfriend free, and I hate to sound objectifying right now, so hopefully I won't, but not wearing yoga pants is probably a good way to do that. And I'm not saying don't wear pants. That would probably make the problem worse. But I think, yoga pants, there's something that entices the eyes of people who are inherently attracted to the female body. Yes. It leaves something to the imagination and also expresses a lot to the non-imaginative mind. So
I think all of my ex-boyfriends would agree.
Absolutely. And there's something serenely spiritual about having the person in front of you bend over into a downward dog, and then you're greeted with her lycra encased genital silhouette. I mean, I feel that in my spirit. It's a great enhancement. My kundalini gets stronger just thinking about it.
As does mine.
I felt yours getting stronger.
So the last question is from Jackie, and she wants to know, what do you do for your hot bod? She must have seen the Olympics video.
I like the way Jackie thinks. She sounds so enlightened. What a wonderful person, Jackie. Should really honor her. What do I do for my hot body? Well, first, thank you for the implied compliment, Jackie. And what I do for it is I eat pretty clean.
Are you vegan?
Not actually. I eat a pure vegan diet as well as a meat eating diet simultaneously. I'm a equal diet opportunity employer, so yes, I do eat vegan.
Does that fall under the paleo umbrella? The meat and the veggies?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I really, I used to categorize myself nutritionally and like, let's bow down and honor whatever kind of philosophy or label of this nutritional stuff, because it felt important to me to have that sense of belonging to a mothership of nutritional beliefs. But I don't do that anymore. So maybe it is sort of paleo. Um, but maybe not. But for me, what's most important is eating organic whole foods. And I am gluten free. I mean, once in a while I cheat. I'm not celiac, so it doesn't kill me, but I'm gluten intolerant. So my hot bod looks a bit hotter when I'm being gluten free. And then, I exercise. I weight train 3 or 4 days a week.
So
I
that's
used to
not
kill.
just yoga.
Yeah, not just yoga. In fact, I don't do yoga nearly as much as what my body would like.
Okay.
I love how I feel when I do yoga and after yoga, but I find yoga inherently boring. So it's one of those things like I know it's very good for me and it benefits me, and I don't do it nearly as often as I think I should. So
There you
yeah,
have it. There
here
you have
we
it,
have
Jackie.
the doctrine of the hot bod, Jack.
We'll be sure to link up that photo in the show notes as well. um, just to, for effect. So I have a couple more questions that I ask at the end of every interview, but before we wrap up, I did want to make sure everyone knows where to follow you. What's the best website, the best channel?
Yeah, I'd say the best place to find me is Facebook or YouTube. My handle is Awaken with JP.
Okay, perfect. And we'll have that in the show notes as well. So again, before I dive into the last two questions, I wanted to take a second and I'm glad that you said you wanted people to recognize you for being caring and genuine, because I wanted to acknowledge you for being super down to earth. When we met at Tony Robbins, I think I stopped you on the way back from the bathroom, like real stealth-like, and you were just immediately so kind, and you hugged me, and you asked my name, and you were very present, and so I just wanted to give you props for that and acknowledge you for it.
Oh, well, thank you for that, Kimberly. I appreciate that acknowledgement. It means a lot to me and feels good to hear.
You're so welcome.
Which might mean I'm incredibly codependent, but screw it, I am, and that feels very good to hear.
It's okay. I needed you to want to get to know me in that moment, so it works out.
And I needed you to want to get to know me in that moment.
Mutually beneficial. I'm okay with it. So, final two questions. This is the bold life movement after all. So I ask everyone, how do you define living a bold life? Or what does being bold per se mean to you?
Yeah, to me, it means perpetually stepping deeper into who you are without apologizing for who you are. And I think stepping deeper into who we are means we live as authentic as possible. And I think there's a roadblock a lot of us have to being ourself, especially being ourself and not apologizing to it. Yeah. We'd sit there and say, well, I don't know who I am. It's like, yeah, welcome to humanity. Who do you think actually does know who they are? So I think being ourselves has nothing to do with knowing who we are. I think if we have a sense of knowing who we are, that's probably incredibly inaccurate. So probably the curiosity in the humble mindset of saying, I don't know who I am, is probably a beneficial thing. And I think the purpose of life is to be ourselves, not to just have a mental comprehension of who we are. So with that said, doing our best to be ourselves and not apologizing for it is what I would consider to be a bold life.
I love it. I totally agree. Last question. Do you know your why? And if so, what is it?
I have a version of my why, and I'm curious about deeper versions of it that might arise. But my version of why I do what I do, in this moment is to help people help themselves live more meaningful lives. And there's a kind of a footnote on that. There's a simultaneous why that's very self-centered, which is helping myself live a more meaningful life. Part of how I get meaning in life is by helping others step deeper into the realization of their meaning in life. And then a second footnote is of my why is I like to have fun. and I have a lot of fun doing what I do.
Yeah, I have to say, when I filmed the JP Sears parody video for the Tony Robbins experience,
Which was lovely. I love that. I was flattered by that. It was just wonderful. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. It was so fun. And it like pulled something out of me that I hadn't gotten to play with in a long time, and set me off on this tangent of just coming up with all these ideas for different videos that I want to film in my own style, but that are just super fun and make life and make work, quote unquote, more interesting. So I'm right there with you.
For sure. I think that Oscar Wilde said something along the lines of, life is too important to take seriously. I think it is important enough that it deserves the respect of fun. And fun might not be the state of mind to achieve 100% of the time, but it's definitely a food that deserves to be on the plate of our psyche.
I love it. Awesome. Well, JP, thank you so much. It's been so much fun, and hopefully I get to have you back when you're going through the book launch process. So thanks.
Yeah, I would be absolutely delighted to come back and shamelessly, aggressively push my book on every member of your audience.
They welcome it. I speak for all of them.
Book or no book, it would be a pleasure to come back anytime, Kimberly. And thank you so much for having me on. It's been delightful talking with you.
You're so welcome. Namaste. Thanks, JP.
You're welcome.
That wraps up episode 41. Thank you so much again to JP. For those of you who watched our interview on YouTube, please drop me a comment below the episode. I'd love to know what you think about the new video format and what you loved about today's show. As you all heard today, so much has changed for JP since he started producing his hilarious videos. And I think that that's a great example of what kind of opportunities can open up for you when you follow your gut and when you have a little fun. So keep that in mind as you think about what you want the rest of this year to hold for you. If you want more from us, head over to theboldlifemovement.com/041 to check out all the show notes. And do me a favor, if you love JP and you love the Bold Life Movement, please share this episode with your friends on Facebook and Twitter, and tag us so we can send you some big virtual hugs and lots of good Reiki. Thanks again for listening, guys, and we will see you next week.